Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Last night was the Orchid Society AGM, which we managed to get done and dusted in half an hour. It's like a routine because the same committee members go forward and get elected, and they get them elected en masse in some cases. But anyway, we whizzed through that, and no speaker because of the AGM, and eventually it was the plant auction. Now, at the Bournemouth Orchid Society, I would never put plants in to auction because the prices people get for their plants is outrageously low. There were real specimen-sized cattleyas there that if you went, from a nursery or something, they'd have been £40–50, massive plants, beautiful plants, and, they didn't even sell at their reserve price of 20. There was a beautiful bulbophyllum there. It must have had well over a dozen good healthy bulbs on it. It had 3 or 4 new growths, and it went for £7. I feel sorry for the people who are putting those plants in and only getting that amount of money. But a lot of them have no other way of selling. They wouldn't dream of using eBay. Most of them haven't heard of it. So they've got no other outlet to get rid of their surplus plants. Anyway, I got a number to bid just in case, but I had no intentions of buying any plants. As you know, at the moment I'm trying to downsize, not get more plants. But I did say with the way the revenue's coming in on the YouTube channel, it would enable me perhaps to look for the specimen plants rather than, one to bring on over the years, because it does take time to grow plants up to that. And the chairman from the Wessex Orchid Society, which is a good friend, came in and she said, Roger, I got a couple of dendrobiums going in the auction. I said, yeah, I'm not really buying any orchids at the moment, but yeah, I did. And out of the corner of your eye, you may have even spotted what we got. I class this as a silly, spur-of-the-moment purchase, because when it came up for the auction, it had a reserve of 20, which is outrageously low for the plant in question, and nobody bid on it. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, it's a giant plant, do I really need that? So I didn't bid. And then at the end of the auction, I went up to Lynn and I said, do you want to take that dendrobium home? And she said, no, that's why I brought it here. She sounded quite cross. I said, all right, I'll give you the 20 quid for it. So we have a new orchid. Now I'm going to have to stand back. Oh, it's very early in the day at the moment. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Was that a silly buy or what? It's absolutely enormous. And this one was on my wish list once, and it got taken off the wish list on the grounds it grows quite big. I thought, well, am I ever going to have space for that? But this one's actually in bloom. There's a mindset here. A lot of the Orchid Society members, the good growers, every plant they've got, they have showing it in mind. So they grow it with that intention, if you see what I mean, whereas I don't. If it happens to coincide that I've got a nice plant in bloom when a show comes up, I'll put it in. But I don't grow them for that purpose. I grow them for the enjoyment. But anyway, I had a quick look at this one, and what sold it on me is that this cane here that's currently in bloom has previously bloomed 3 times, so each cane is capable of multiple blooms. You can see the spikes, sorry, twice, and the current one. And I had a look at the style of the plant, and it's in a similar vein to this one, on the grounds it does produce pendulous rhizomes with multiple blooms. But because this was planning on being shown, the spike was staked upright. That's not how they grow. That spike should be arching over nicely. But when I looked at the plant, I thought, well, there's some old bloomed canes, a bit dishevelled. you know, several leafless canes on here. But what I looked at was these three canes. This one here, and this one round here. And they are all good, strong, unbloomed canes. So that's the next lot of canes that are going to bloom on here. Now how long they will take to bloom, I don't know. I don't even know if this dendrobium is a seasonal one. In other words, it has a particular season, or whether it's a bit like this one and blooms when it's good and ready. So I got it anyway. £20 for that monster. And I can't say I'm pleased, because I still think it's a bit of a silly purchase. That's going to take up a lot of room. I wouldn't grow it like that. For me, although it's a very large dendrobium, it's an excessively large pot. What it has got is a couple of lovely ferns in the pot, which I will separate out and grow on in a pot. I love ferns. Anyway, this is, I've forgotten what it even is. It is, oh dear, Dendrobium chrysotoxum. I'll have to do a look up on it, but I mean, I can see by the type of the plant, you know, this is the sort of dendrobium it is. The only thing I do know about this one from memory is that it likes to grow a little cooler, and that may be its saving grace, because if I can get it down there on that shelf, that's my coolest place, yeah, and it's a double shelf. It may go in there. The only problem I've got is that bar across the front is in the way. But that helps with the stability of the, even though there's no shelf on it, the bars help hold it in place. But I've done it before and taken a bar out so that I've got access to the tall space without having to sort of dip plants in over the top or try and squeeze them in underneath. So I may well try and do that. But this is a slightly cooler grower than many other dendrobiums I've got. And even the dendrobiums I've got that are supposed to be cooler growing seem to do okay in here anyway. I think the reason is that, you know, when it does get warm in here, the humidity's high. But this has got three lovely unbloomed canes on it. And that's where the future blooms are going to be. And it's obviously capable of, good morning, where have you been? Dirty stop out. So I've been up nearly an hour and I haven't seen hide nor hair of him. You've been out. You been out? Hey? Where you been? Hey, where you been? Anyway, so that's my new plant. It's staked with, well, it's not what I'd call a stake, I'd call it a pole. Size of the flipping thing. Anyway, I asked Lynn and she said, I said, when was that last out of its pot? And she said, oh, quite a while ago, maybe 18 months, something like that. So I'll have a look round. I mean, it does seem to have some root activity, but I'll have to have a good look. Also, the base of the plant's been buried. I don't like that on dendrobium, so that may be due a repot. But in the meantime, you know, I'm a sucker for yellow, and if that was a lovely arched pendulous spike, that would look absolutely gorgeous. I'm not so keen on those that should grow like that, stuck up in the air, but you know, that, as I say, that was probably grown for display purposes rather than a natural look. And there may be a few canes to come off of this. Looking at the way the rhizome's growing, it's creeping across the pot. Yeah, so the oldest canes are here. These are the oldest leafless ones, and then gradually it's moved forward, and the canes, easy way to tell really just on this plant, probably because they were stripped off, but the latest canes are the ones that have still got the sheaths on. They haven't been peeled off yet. So anyway, one new plant. I'm not going to make a habit of it, especially something that big, but it was one that was on the list once, so yeah. And well, I was sort of semi-doing somebody a favour, really, that's done me favours in the past, you know, to go to the trouble of bringing something like that in. And Lynn said it's exactly the same reason I want to get rid of some of my orchids. She just said, I need the space. I need the space. So now I need the space too. But hopefully, if that will go on that lower shelf, I've got accommodation for it. She's been growing this quite heavily shaded this year. And through the winter. That's why the leaves are this dark colour. I mean, they're gorgeous, healthy, shiny leaves. But nonetheless, those leaves will lighten up in here because it's now going to be getting a bit more light. So they will go to what I would call a more normal colour. But its trait is that it does actually have quite dark, glossy leaves if it's kept okay. And whatever light this was in, it still managed to chuck that flower spike up. So it hasn't been doing it any harm. As far as I know, this is a deciduous forest jobby, but I'll look it up. In which case, during the growing season, it would get shade. You know, it would be under the leaf cover, and then it would be brighter in the winter. But I've got to double check that. I'm not just assuming. It might be one of those that just comes from evergreen forests and is continually shaded, and just gets the difference in the wet season and the dry season. But I'll look it up, do a bit of work on it. It's not a very rare orchid where there'll be limited information. There'll be stacks of information on this one. But yeah, bit big, but gorgeous flowers. So anyway, busy day today, so I thought I'd just knock this video out early in the day and get it done and get it posted before the activities start. And then I'll see you next time. Okay, I'll add this bit on the end. I've just gone to have a quick bit of research on this one. And the first two places I looked, orchidspecies.com as always, and I found another site with quite a large description and this, that and the other. And the first thing both of them say is a small sized dendrobium. So straight away this is labelled wrong, because that is not a small sized dendrobium. And that's annoying because that's actually the original label from Burnham's Nurseries. I have chatted to Sarah about that, and she said they can only work with what they're given. So, you know, that's come from somebody who's been selling plants masquerading as something. So it may well not be Chrysotoxum, because if that's classed as a small growing dendrobium, it ain't. It's enormous. So I will have to do a little bit of extra research based on the blooms, which luckily I've got. So I don't know. It may be mislabeled. That is not a small-sized dendrobium. That is a small-sized dendrobium. Not that. So I may have a little bit of work to do on it, but I mean the blooms look right. But anyway, an update will follow once I get my head around what I think this really is. The giveaway also is that Chrysotoxum's blooms are classed as short-lived. Well, this spike is fully open. I don't know how long it's been open, so that may be its giveaway. If those blooms only last a short period of time, well, it sort of implies maybe it's right, but it can't be. If the description of the size of this thing says small-sized, then this is labelled wrong. I'll have to find something else, you know, that matches the plant size and growth, not just the blooms. You can't just go on the blooms when you're dealing with species. It's the whole thing. You know, leaf size, leaf width, number of leaves per cane, size of cane, shape of canes. It's everything. And there are an awful lot of dendrobiums that are incredibly similar. But I'll get there.